Welcome back to the Diamond Connection. Now it's time for us to get connecting with a brilliant young man. He is an author and also a filmmaker. His name is Michael Mulusa. Now he has written a very interesting book. It's called Lungs of Steel. And in this book he highlights his journey through addiction and also just how to help anyone out there that might be struggling with the same. Michael, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Manama. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. When you hear Lungs of Steel, I don't even know what to imagine the book has. But for you, even just coming up with that title, maybe take us through coming up with the title and your journey through drug addiction.
Yeah. Firstly, as a writer, I think the title is just as important as the content inside.
Yeah.
So the title can make one either read or not read the book. So Lungs of Steel is a metaphor basically describing a situation I was in. I was such a heavy smoker. So the lungs are organs used for breathing. So steel is a very strong metal. So Lungs of Steel is basically showing how much my lungs had to endure in that 10-year period. So I had lungs of steel. I had really strong.
Yeah, you really did. Now, let's take it to now your experience, which you highlight in here. What pushed you into that dark space where you start to abuse substances?
So there's the aspect of peer pressure, firstly, but I avoid speaking about that. I think I highlight the root cause of substance abuse. First of all, in my situation, substance abuse was very accessible to me. It was all over my face. It was all over me. So
at what stage in your life was this? When you were a teenager?
Yes, grade 8.
Okay.
So when I just entered into grade 8, I started smoking on the 24th of September 2011 at
How
17.
do you remember that date?
It's the first chapter of the book. It's the first chapter of the book. Very, very interesting. So I ran through that, what happened that day and what happened that year. I endured not smoking for about 18 months, and it was all over my face. I just resisted until the time when I gave in. There were many factors that made me give in, but one of the factors was that I wanted to experiment now. Yeah, and I think the other thing about substance abuse I've noticed is that the knowledge is not available. So one of the reasons why I experimented is because of the way it looks like a glamorous life.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't tell you the side effects. They don't tell you the behind the scenes. So it was more of like an experiment. I remember I even said a prayer before I did it. I said, Lord, you know I don't want to do this life, but let me just try it. I ended up in for 10 years. I don't wish anybody to go through that. You don't need to. Yeah.
What is it that you would highlight? That what was the feeling like that made you just stay abusing the substances? And also, if you could just highlight what you were abusing at that time.
All right. So you see, substances, they fill a void. So most people that go into drugs, they're probably missing something. You find that maybe they feel rejected. The drugs will embrace you. Maybe you feel lonely. It will open up a world to you. Maybe you're feeling not loved, but this world will make you. It accommodates everyone. I started off with marijuana. And then from marijuana, it went on to cigarettes. From cigarettes, it went on to lean, codeine, non-codeine, cough syrup. From cough syrup, it went on to alcohol. Alcohol, we tried cat when partying, molly, and things like that. So when I started with marijuana, is that you see people who've gone ahead of you. So the road doesn't really look pretty. So you realize that, let me be a bit responsible. However, with drug abuse, you have no power. The substance control you. My first experience, and which I wish was bad. People have various types of experiences. Some, it's a bad day. I wish it was horrible so that I would never do it again. But mine, I took that path and I felt some joy that I've never felt before. I started laughing. I was laughing the whole day. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And I continued until 7 years I was in. I realized I was in a prison.
Yeah.
And I needed to get out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out. And the only way was going down.
Okay. Now, how was the people around you now, with you being in that space? What was their reaction to seeing you go down this way?
So at the time, I was living with my my two older brothers. We were all in high school at the time, and then they started before me. And when we were living at home, most of our friends would come home to smoke and drink. So imagine you're this young grade 8 boy, and you probably have this crush in grade 12. And then the next morning she's at your house, she's smoking, you don't smoke. So imagine that temptation. So when I started, it was like, my brother smokes, I'm smoking.
Okay.
I could literally wake up, there's what we call bake and wake. That means...
Yeah.
So and that was in the blanket. So you wake up and the joint is right next to you. And the time there was this whisker. It was all like a fantasy that you're in. My school that I went to had a smoker section for both teachers and students, pupils as well. So it was like normal. It's like a normal world. So the
I need to find out what school that
school
was
is that?
at the
In
break.
Nigeria?
Of course, we don't want to dent the
Yes, true,
reputation right
yeah.
now, but I need to find out what school that was at the break. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the environment was like, it was accommodating all that. And this is something I've noticed also, is that, you see, the gates leading to substance abuse, they're very wide. Substance abuse is welcoming everybody, but the gates to exit, very narrow.
Yeah.
And not many people come out. And then the few that come out, what they do is that they neglect the friends they had
They've left
in.
behind.
So they don't come and speak out and saying this, and you realize somebody is an alcoholic and says, oh, that used to be my friend. Oh, what happened? No, he stopped drinking. Now he thinks he's more holier than thou. So he neglects his friends. The information is not there. Even in the textbooks, the information about substance abuse, it's not even
Sometimes it's just about protecting your peace. Like, you know the company is bad. You know
Yes.
that if you hang out with these people, your chances of falling or relapsing is very high.
very high.
So sometimes it's
you
not...
protect yourself. You see that.
Yes,
And now
yes.
what happens is that it leaves the masses in no hope. You see that?
Okay. Now, with you, this 10 years, and then finally, we were talking before we came on, you said it didn't exactly take an occurrence. It was just you seeing that you're in a bad space, and of course with the help of God, like you described it. But if you could just describe for our viewer, when you reached that point where you were like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah. So it started off, I think when I was in high school, in the 10th grade, the people in grade 11 were campaigning to become prefects next year in boarding school. So they set me up, like trying to get me caught on drugs. They didn't catch me smoking that time, but then they set me up. But now I was addicted. The way I used to smoke every day. Every day. So like in a year, there's 365 days. You'll find that I missed 3 days in a year. I was a regular smoker. So when they took me to the staff room, I told them that, listen, they didn't catch me smoking, but you probably will catch me tomorrow because I'm addicted. I need help. My teachers were shocked. My teacher that teaches civic education was like, Michael, I'm so disappointed. I said, madam, there's nothing to be disappointed about. I need help. This is why my parents have brought me here. I need help. She says, but you don't look like you're substance abuse. You don't sound, your grades don't even look like substance abuse. And this is what I want to share, that they tell us all these, no, your eyes will be bloodshot red, but there's eye drops. So I can smoke, my eyes turn red, I put eye drops and they clear. But a teacher has been told that, oh, when you see red eyes, that person does drugs. So now when I wanted to study, so I felt like I was in a state of state capture. So I was sharing my body. So when I needed to study, maybe I wake up like 4 o'clock in the morning. I study. Then as soon as maybe I study for 2 hours, then I give my body to the drugs now. And the drugs would take off. And I was like, this is not life. I became like, when I smoke now, I was hiding from people. It became too much, because now I'm like, I've been doing this for 8 years. And now I'm seeing that there is no benefit. So the first step to actually quitting is realization that it's bad.
Yeah.
When you accept that it's bad. So all the years was because I was in denial. I remember I used to talk with my dad. My dad used to tell me, the moment you quit, life will turn out. And I used to blame everybody, and that's what people on substances do. They blame everybody and
Except
everything
themselves,
else except the substance. Except the substance.
I'm going through your book here. So I've got your book here with me, and I've seen like interesting chapters through it, and I think one of my faves, I have to see, this is why I wanted a hard copy.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite moments from your book is, of course, the chapters that you've highlighted, and they seem to have very interesting titles along with them. How did you come to naming each chapter of your book?
That's a very, very good question. And I remember one of the first person that read the book, they spoke about that. So the first chapter is 24th September 2011.
Yeah.
So it's 24/09/11. That's the date.
Yeah.
And that speaks about what
When
happened
you
that
first
day.
started to smoke.
Of when I started smoking.
Okay, so before you continue with the explanation, right? I found the page. So you've got blunt only.
Skefegwai,
Yes, Skefegwai. You've got the Veld and the Dungeon.
the felt and the dungeon. Yeah.
It's the Felt, not
Yes.
the. Okay. You've got the Liberation of Substance Abuse.
Yes.
From goals to
To
smokes. Sounds like a rap album, by the way. Becoming a Stoner, Selling Dreams, Road to Salvation, and of course you also have like Message to Parents. You highlight causes of abuse, how to stop. You talk about the anointing, and you also have advice that says don't be afraid to quit. Interesting. So run us through like how you tabled this book the way that you
Yes.
did.
So I think I've mentioned about the second chapter.
Yeah.
So the other chapter is Skefegwai. So from starting with marijuana, I put this guard around me, and this is what people need to know: is that I started smoking, and I said, okay, cigarettes is bad, alcohol is bad, cocaine is bad, because weed is considered not a drug. It's like an angel in the substance abuse. So I said, okay, I'll keep it green. But then slowly, you let your guard down, you give in. So I started mixing my weed with cigarettes. Then from there, I started smoking cigarettes. So my second chapter is Skefegwai. Skef is an Afrikaans word name for smoke. So Skef is smoke. And then a Gwai is a street name for cigarette. So Skefegwai. So I speak about nicotine and Skefegwai because nicotine is another heavy drug. Have you noticed people how they smoke? They smoke frequently. Have you ever chilled with somebody who smokes a cigarette? It's after every 5 minutes. It's like the way you check for notifications on your phone.
Yeah.
So I speak about that addiction. And then the other chapter is reverberation. Maybe you can run me through.
Oh, I've already passed
So
these
in no particular order, I have the felt and the dungeon. So the felt and the dungeon is my environment that I was in. So at the time we lived in this, it was a mansion. Now it was just like three of us, three young guys, and then we had like a felt at the back and another felt, and then friends would come. So it speaks about my environment of that.
Okay.
Selling dreams, I think, wow. So you see, as a young person, I have no source of income. And that's something you should know. Like you can't be rich if you're on substance abuse. So at some point in my life, I did sell drugs, particular marijuana. So I was a weed seller.
Okay.
And something people should know about substance abuse is that the substance you're taking or you think you're taking is not what you're taking. So I was addicted to marijuana heavily, but what I sold people, I could not smoke that because I knew what was in. So now imagine if a young grade 9 boy like me is selling something that he can't take. Imagine the big boys that are supplying me. Imagine the bigger boys on top of that. So selling dreams is about flipping. You've heard about flipping numbers. Some people it's cocaine, selling drugs and duping people and all that and all that and all that. And then reverberation of substance abuse. Reverberation is like the repercussions of substance abuse. So I highlight that. I've actually got an audiobook of 2 free chapters on that, reverberation of substance abuse. From Goals to Smoke, I speak about how substance abuse destroyed my career. That one is one particular career, but it destroyed many of my careers. One of my careers was I was a soccer player.
Okay.
Very good soccer player and an athlete. And the moment I started smoking, so I speak from goals. So I used to score a lot of goals. I used to score a lot of goals, and I was very good. And then from smokes. So then there's epistle to parents, message to parents. You see, the way we used to do agriculture, has changed because of climate change. Now, the way our parents are raising us up now, it's like they're using the same methods of 1967, forgetting that us youth today, we live in a sophisticated world. You know, when our parents were leaving high school, when they were graduating from universities, leaving their parents' homes, they used to live responsible. They used to live well-equipped for society, educated. Today, it's a different ballgame. Yeah. Youths are leaving their parents' homes, they live in high school, they live in universities, broken, suicidal, drug addicts. A young girl in university, she's graduating with a degree. A degree is not the only thing she's going with. You find that she's going with diseases. She's going with multiple abortions. She's going into society suicidal. Why are people killing themselves all of a sudden? No, she had it all going on. She was about to graduate. Just before her graduation, she kills herself. What went wrong? What went wrong? The other chapter I speak about is my road to salvation. Very beautiful. I speak about how... Whoa.
What unconventional, because before we came on, what unconventional thing were you doing to get yourself on the right path?
So, the first thing...
Even just what? Because you don't want to give too much away from your book.
It's accepting. You know, I think that's we in denial, being real with yourself. Like, I'm in a mess. I need help. The thing is that we hide it. Like on social media, if we go through all our social medias, we all have a perfect life.
I don't. I be writing things.
You be writing things. Oh, great for you. You understand? So we all have it all figured out, but we don't have it figured out. So I actually had to come to my senses. But also circumstances pushed me. I got kicked out of the house. I dropped out of law school and stuff like that. I even spent some time on the streets.
Wow.
You see that? So I learned something, that in life, before you go up, you have to drop down. Before a seed can germinate, it has to be buried.
Let's bring it to the lessons for the parents here. You say a parent should give a child more than financial support. Man shall not live on bread alone. A child needs a role model, needs emotional and spiritual support to grow. This support is meant to come from both parents and not one. It's saddening today that children are growing up on bread and milk alone. There is no greater malnutrition on this planet than a child raised by a single parent. Children pick up whatever they see from the parents. If GBV is seen by a child, then it is highly likely that the child will also implement this behavior in future. Now, this is something that you have in a message for the parents. Why did you choose to speak to the parents?
You see, as youths, we don't really have a voice towards our parents. And then I think there's a barrier and miscommunication between us and our parents. One of the things is that our parents are also not very relatable, because they'll tell us things like...
I need you to wrap it up quickly because we're out of time.
All right. Yeah. Our parents are not relatable. They say, I used to walk 30 kilometers. At your age, I used to do this. So they make it seem like they are God and we human beings. So we can't understand. So I say there is no greater malnutrition than a child being raised by one parent. It took two to make one, but why is it that in today's time it's one raising a child when it took two? Clearly, if it took two people to create something, it needs two people to raise that child. So in African society, as men, if you can finance, if you can provide financially, then it's like you're a good parent. But you see, we need more than just money. So you hear women saying like, oh, my baby daddy, he's a good baby daddy. At least he doesn't see the child, but he sends money for the child. And like, it's a norm. No, we need more than just money. You know, sometimes as men, this world now, there's feminism. Nobody's out here to speak to us. You know, sometimes what we need is a daddy just coming saying, son, I believe in you.
Yeah.
That's bigger than $100 million.
We have to go now.
It's been a great chat.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a great chat. It's kept us very engaged. And I'm so glad to see that you managed to pull yourself out. Is this book available online?
So this book will be available. It'll be launched in March, but in February it will be available. www.michaelmulusa. It will be on Amazon. The audio book has to be delayed a bit because of certain reasons, to avoid piracy and things like that. And for those outside Zambia, they'll have to wait a bit. So from February, you can start getting some copies, but we are launching officially in March. For more information, visit www.michaelmulusa.com.
would love to come for the book launch, and I hope to hear you read out of your book, because I think you sound great and I think you add some flavor to it.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here with us
Thank you very
today.
much.
Vida, let's go eat, girl.
Yeah, it's lunchtime. Thank you for watching the show today. We've had fun on this end. Hope you have on that end as well.
Yeah. Ciao. See you on Wednesday.